Hello, St. John Baptist Church. This is the weekly stewardship video. I'm Brother Al McClaney, and today I am rocking my Tennessee State University shirt, which my wife, Janine McClaney, is a proud alum. And what inspired this is currently she is on a Zoom call with her national alumni conference, which was originally going to be in Orlando, Florida, but of course, with COVID, it is virtual. And when I found out she was having the call today, I thought about 10 years ago when her president at the time was here for a local alumni event. He talked about them opening a stock trading investment lab on the university, in which the students would learn to trade stocks, all the principles behind investing. And that inspired me to have a video regarding biblical financial wealth. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And the PowerPoint that we'll be using. Let me move myself out of the way here, and hopefully you can see the PowerPoint now in presentation mode. So this topic is going to be biblical financial wealth. And I use the scripture Deuteronomy 8, verses 15 through 19 from the Amplified Bible. And surrounding the slide of the scripture, different types of wealth, and we'll go into more detail of those types of wealth. You see the NASDAQ here representing stocks, options, homes here representing home ownership, and that's land, and of course cash. Then a business is being a business owner, entrepreneur. All these are different forms of wealth. And we want to look at it from a biblical standpoint. In Deuteronomy chapter 8, verses 15 through 19 says, "He led you through the great and terrible wilderness with its fiery serpents and scorpions and thirsty ground where there was no water. It was he who brought water for you out of the flinty rock. He fed you manna in the wilderness, a substance which your fathers did not know, so that he might humble you by dependence on him, and that he might test you to do good things for you at the end. Otherwise, you may say in your heart, my power and the strength of my hand made me this wealth." Here's what I've emphasized. Verse 18, "But you shall remember with profound respect the Lord your God, for it is he who is giving you power to make wealth, that he may confirm his covenant, which he swore solemnly promised to your fathers as it is to this day. And it shall come about if you ever forget the Lord your God and follow other gods, little g, and serve them and worship them. I testify against you today that you will most certainly perish." So as Christians, it's important for us to understand that it is the Lord that gives us the power to get wealth. And so therefore, there is nothing evil about having wealth. There's nothing sinful about having wealth. There are others who said it's not that God is against you being successful or having wealth or even having possessions. He just wants to make sure that the success doesn't own you, that the possessions don't own you, and that the wealth don't own you, because that falls into the category of gods with a little g. He provides us wealth as Christians, so to confirm his covenant, meaning that we are pointing to him as the source of our prosperity, of the source of our wealth. So with that said, let's go into the definition of what wealth is and how do we calculate it. So in this slide, you can see how to calculate your net worth, which is related to wealth. Two factors go into the calculation: assets and liabilities. And so assets are those things that add to wealth. If you own a home, it's the value of the home. If you own a business, what that business is valued at. Stocks, bonds, cash, raw land for development, 401k, the amount that's in there, which of course would consist of stocks and bonds or by way of mutual funds, cash value within a cash value life insurance. So those are examples of assets. Liabilities are the debts you owe. Now, this is not the bills that are reoccurring. For instance, your cable bill or your cell phone bill. Now, if those turn into you're behind on them and they start to do a claim against you, that could be a debt. But in general, we're talking about debts such as the mortgage owed, if you take out a business loan, credit card debt, auto loans, or student loans. So notice there could be a situation where you have a home and it's valued at more than what you owe. So that would be the difference between the two when we start getting down to the calculation. So you could have a business, but you took out a business loan, but the business may be worth more than the loan itself. So again, the liability assets are those that add value. Liabilities are those debts you owe. And we're not talking about reoccurring bills. So what do you do to do the calculation? First, you add up your assets. And you can do this by just pen and paper. And or I'll show you on the next slide a tool, because we always like to offer you a resource. So you just add up the assets. Then second, you add up your liabilities. And then you simply subtract the two. So you take your assets minus the liabilities equal your net worth. Now, in some cases, it could be a negative number. Ideally, you want that to be a positive number, but sometimes it could be a negative number. But in that case, that's fine, because we know information now makes us powerful and there's awareness. So what we can do is work on concentrating on that number, because if before you never thought of that, you wouldn't be concentrating on it. So each year it becomes your goal to build that number so that if it's negative, it becomes positive, and you're working on emphasizing increasing that positive number. So it's one thing to have a great job with income, and you might have been concentrating on that before. Yes, you want to increase your income each year, but income in itself is not transferable. And what do I mean by that? Say you have children or family members or even organizations that you want to transfer that to. You can't transfer a job, but you can transition your income into wealth. How do you do that? The easiest way, if you're at a job with a 401k, that becomes part of your assets. So each year, you can be turning your income, or each day or month, turning your income into some type of asset that will increase that net worth number. Also, as I said, if you have children, that creates generational wealth where you can leave them a business, you can leave them cash, you can leave them something other than having debts or liabilities, which they are not responsible for, depending on if they're not on that loan. But if they have assets that can be passed down from generation to generation. And we know some famous families that, like the Kennedys or the Rockefellers or Walmart. I'm sorry, Sam Walton. So through the years, they're not starting over, which oftentimes we see in the African American community. So each generation, we're starting over. So that's why it's important to know what your net worth is, and then also work on improving that. So let's look at a tool that could help us. One of them I mentioned before is Joe Sangl. He has the group called I Was Broke, Now I'm Not, and that's the name of the website. And you can always pause the video, as we've talked about in the past. You can take a picture of that and go out to this website, specifically tools-savings, and it'll bring you to a section called Calculating Net Worth, where you can download this spreadsheet. And I know sometimes Excel spreadsheets can be intimidating. This one is very user-friendly. This is a screenshot of it, where you literally just, it already has the asset types, and it has the name that would fall under that, and it'll add it up for you. And then here's the liabilities. And then what happens is you'll be able to track it monthly. you'll be able to look and see your net worth. So this does it for you. It's a great tool. Also, there's another website called Dinkytown. Now, Dinkytown has a pro version. You don't need to even do that. You can go out to dinkytown.net and go to calculating net worth, and you can use all their calculators free. So I know it says pro version or free trial. You don't have to do any of those. Just use their free calculators. Then there's Chris Hogan, who's done a lot of work when it comes to net worth and retirement. He's part of the Dave Ramsey group. And the great thing about it, he's African American. So you don't see a lot of us in that field, but Chris Hogan is one of the Ramsey personalities. He specifically concentrates in the area of retirement, net worth. Even though he's an LSU graduate, and everybody knows, so some of you know I'm a University of Alabama graduate, I'll give him a pass on that one. But Chris Hogan has a great website. You can go out, and he also has a calculator. And then there's a YouTube video. You can go out. Again, you can pause this video, take a picture of it, or just write it down. And there's a video, it's about 4 minutes long, where the person goes through describing not only the importance of your net worth, he talks about how to calculate it, and then how to monitor it. So here's some great tools and resources available for you. So as we always do, let's take a look at the market, because that's one of the main mechanisms I'm using to increase my net worth. Some of you may be doing it through businesses. Even some of you may have collections like in art or rare antiques. Some of you may have your business or a variety of different things. The important thing is you got a source to turn that income into assets. So let's take a look at the market. Kind of a wild ride this week. We always start off with the SPY, which is the Standards & Poor 500 exchange traded fund. Just a quick review. Here's our high for the year, which was back in February. And as COVID started, we started to drop. We hit the low March 23rd, and we've been just steady recovering. We talked about how we bounce between these important levels, which is the 50% retracement from the high and the 61.8%, and we now finally got through there. But Wednesday and Thursday, that was a wild ride back. As we started heading lower, talking heads, CNBC, Bloomberg, all of them had different theories saying that now COVID numbers are starting to affect. They're finally digesting the unemployment numbers, all of these different theories. Why it happened actually really doesn't matter. It just, we know it happened. Now, some could say it's just the market was on a pretty solid, intense run, and now it's kind of taking a break. And you can see Friday it recovered. That's a little green that you see. And if you hadn't noticed, red is selling on that day, so it's predominantly selling, and then green was buying, which drives the market up. And you see Friday, a little bit of recovery, but didn't recover all the way to where we were earlier that week. Let's look at what's been leading us. We talked about before, tech, which is represented by the exchange traded fund QQQ. We actually went past the record that NASDAQ had set back in February. But as it went right along with the Standards & Poor, that Wednesday and Thursday just really was an intense amount of selling, and we fell below. So we had recovered 100%, which is actually pretty remarkable, seeing how quickly the bear market hit and how quickly we had gone down. So this is one of the quickest bear markets and most intense in history. And this is one of the quickest recoveries for something that had been so deep of a decline. We went up, set a high, which was a historic high. Then just like the Standards & Poor, which the QQQ would be made up a part of the Standards and Poor. That Thursday and Friday drop. Then we had the slight recovery on Friday, so it'll be interesting next week on Monday the 15th. Where do we go from here? Hopefully, you are still participating in the market in some type of fashion, but as always, we say there should be caution when anytime in the market, but it should never be enough to where you're totally frightened out of the market. Once again, it's Brother Al McClaney with a weekly video. We want to say continue to stay safe, continue to wear masks, gloves, social distancing. We know that a lot of places around the country are starting to open, but we don't want to get complacent. Once again, have a great week and be blessed.